Welcome back, Dragon Age Origins. We're going through the Dalish origin, and we'll be discussing a lot of how this origin affects the gameplay of Dragon Age Origins. So we're about to talk with Favel.
So you have returned to us, Dalen. We are grateful you're whole and well.
The Shemlen are responsible for this.
The Shemlen, eh? And I suppose the Shemlen dragged you into that cave, twisted your arms to prevent you from coming to tell the Keeper of it first.
So no matter what you say to him at first, he has that negative tone to him, and he'll continue that regardless of what you say for the first little bit. We wanted to see if there was anything to tell, Heron.
Once you saw what was inside, you should have returned. But you kept exploring, didn't you? I suppose your youth can be forgiven. Sadly, Tamlin pays the price. Losing you would be a terrible crime, Dalen. You belong to more than just yourself, or do you not remember?
What do you mean?
Let us tell these children of the fall of the Dales. You can honor me by sharing in the telling.
So this is the part that I was comparing with the human origin, and we're going to play along. Certainly, Heron.
Come then. Help me as I go along. Children, hear of the fall of the Dales. Hear the tale of what makes you Dalish. Would you care to begin, Dalen?
Long ago, we were slaves to the humans.
Yes, slaves to a terrible empire the humans built on the darkest magic.
Referring to
When it
Teventer.
fell, we became free. We built a homeland in the Dales, worshipping the creators, and rebuilding the culture and history we lost in our long years of slavery.
But the humans wouldn't let us be.
They were resentful, because we would not worship their gods, and because we put our people first. Over the years, their nations grew cold toward the Dales. In their eyes, we were blasphemers and cruel tyrants.
Now, the way we're telling the story is from the Dalish, or these Dalish perspective, and there's some truth to it, but I think there's a whole lot more to that story than what is being alluded to here. And we'll find that out not only in this game, but going through the other games as well, particularly Inquisition. Inquisition is like a massive Dragon Age lore dump. It's fantastic if you actually care about learning anything about the lore of Dragon Age. This game is quite good for that as well. Dragon Age 2 has the lore and all that, but it's not quite as detailed, and a lot of that, at least from my perspective, is because they chose to focus that game in one small area, whereas this game and Inquisition both cover wide ranges of both time and space. So in this game, we travel all throughout Ferelden, including the Dwarven Kingdoms. And in Inquisition, you have the ability to travel all throughout Ferelden, a little bit south of Ferelden, a little bit north of Ferelden, and even west of Ferelden in all of Orlais. Now, it's mostly Orlais and Ferelden that are featured in Inquisition, but it does have a lot of stuff from the neighboring areas as well, to a much lesser extent. So, the humans declared war on the Dales.
And so the Dales fell. They took our lands and dispersed our people, forcing us to live in their cities and abandon our gods. But many of us refused to relinquish our ways. We instead chose to scatter to the winds, wandering the lands.
So this is why I think that this story is flawed in many ways, because that war that they were just talking about, it could be referring to many different things, but in this specific instance, I think they're referring to a war that was actually initiated by the Chantry after, like much after, the rise and fall of the Chantry's prominent figure Andraste. And we'll find out a lot more about Andraste in this game as we play through. There's no need to talk about it here because it's not as relevant, but that war essentially was the Chantry making an exalted march on the Dalish, and it's precisely for what he said. It's because they refused to accept the Maker, essentially. So it's similar to the Crusades in our real world history. So, in a sense, at least, the Crusades were a little bit different, but still similar. We chose wandering the lands rather than human rule.
To survive and preserve our culture, the clans stay apart until the day the Elvenon have a homeland once more.
So he says Elvenon, he's just referring to elves. That's just a fancy way of referring to the elven people. So there you go. We shall return the old ways to those who have lost them.
We are the Dalish, keepers of the lost lore, walkers of the lonely path.
We are the last Elvenon. Never again shall we submit.
Thank you for your forbearance, Dalen. You remember both the tale and the Oath of the Dales perfectly.
The oath is that never submit part.
I pray you find Tamlin quickly.
Right. Before we stop talking to this guy, he has a lot to say, so we're gonna ask about it. First, did elves ever live near caves?
I've never heard of such a thing. But in the days of ancient Arlathan, we lived free and spread far across the continent. We were as varied as the Shemlin, though fewer in number. Perhaps some of us lived in caves then, but all knowledge from that era is lost.
What do you know about Darkspawn?
Only that they eat living flesh and lurk in underground tunnels, once ruled by the Dergenlen, the dwarves. In the last blight long ago, the Grey Wardens all but wiped them out. Should they return, all races will shudder.
It's funny that he says when they return, because as you find out with the Grey Warden playthrough here in Dragon Age Origins, the Darkspawn never actually leave. They're always present. They're just underground, and that makes them a constant threat to the dwarves. So the dwarves are constantly, always at war with the Darkspawn. It's just the rest of the world that has to experience the Darkspawn during a blight. So essentially, when a blight comes, the people living on the surface get a small taste of what the dwarves go through every day. Funny how that works. I would like to hear more about our history.
Now that's something I rarely hear. Of course.
Tell me about Arlathan.
Ah, yes. The Lost City. Before the Shemlen enslaved us, even before they came to this part of the world, our people lived in glorious Arlathan. Legends say that our ancestors were immortal, and we possessed magic the Shemlen could only dream of.
So that is true and not true at the same time. It depends on what you're getting the information from and where you're comparing information from, because the mages of ancient Tevinter were significantly powerful, particularly when you discover certain figures that I'm not going to talk about here because I think it's too much of a spoiler for future games. But there are certain figures that have immense power that were from Tevinter like long ago, and some are even still around. Now there are elven characters like that as well, but the difference is that there's like two categories of elves that have lived like that long. Some of them are just regular old elves, right? They just have the immortality feature, and then others are like these another class altogether that have magic, and their magic is on the level that many would consider them to be gods, essentially. So like they're supremely powerful mages. Do no books record our history?
When the humans enslaved us, they took away our language, our history, and our immortality. We quickened to the pace of life and retained nothing of ourselves. We were slaves for so long that even when we became free, there was little for us to recover. If books still exist, I do not know of them.
See, so that is another mixed truth there. The humans took our immortality. There's I personally think there's like no truth in that whatsoever. I don't think the humans did, and if they did actually play a role in taking away the elves' immortality, it was indirectly, and that could be tied to a lot of the story with the god character Fenrirel, which we'll be covering a lot more in future games. So, what happens to the elves who didn't join the Dalish?
They remain in human cities, forgetting all they once had. We call them flat ears, but they differ little from their Shemlin masters. A few may return, but we must accept that they know nothing of the lore, or why we keep it.
That's a bit of a reference towards the relationship that the elves here, like the Dalish elves and the city elves have towards each other, and it's not a good relationship at all. In fact, in some cases, you could say that elves, like city elves and humans, have a closer relationship than city elves and Dalish. In other cases, that's not so true. Particularly when you start comparing like other areas that have city elves, like the area in Dragon Age 2, and the word of mouth that we receive about Orlais, and in certain cases, what we see in Orlais. But yeah, at least in Ferelden, the Dalish and the city elves do not get along at all. In fact, they kind of have a hatred towards each other. Why do the Shems allow us to exist if they hate us so much?
Perhaps they have no choice. Dalish clans are scattered to the winds and rarely gather, which makes us difficult for any organized effort to destroy. And why bother? We have nothing they want, no land, no treasure, and we always move on, allowing no one to grow too angry with us. Some might see this as cowardly, but we are proud. We are the last, and we will survive.
I kind of want to talk about the Chantry's invasion of the Dales, like their exalted march on the Dalish, essentially. When they went and tried to conquer the Dalish or kill all the Dalish and enslave them, that's what I presume is the big war he was referring to in his story at the very beginning of this conversation. But when they did that, they did not succeed in killing all of the Dalish, but they did wipe out a significant amount of their population and destroy enough of their culture and history that they've been reduced to wandering the land in small clans of like no more than a few hundred people, essentially, in each clan. So very small numbers, and they're spread apart, and each clan is significantly different from any other clan because of the passage of time and how they roam the land on their own. They've all developed their own ways, and so in many senses, like what he's referring to as them being the last, there's some truth to it, but again, some not truth. Do you think we'll ever find another homeland? As if...
We can hope to find a new home one day, where the Dalish and the Flat Ears will build a land greater even than Arlathan. We shall teach the Flat Ears the lore they lost, and perhaps they will teach us to understand the Shemlen at last. That is the only way we shall truly live in peace.
I have a lot to say about that, but I'm not going to for now, because it's
Then
not
I'm
relevant.
sure you have much to do, unless you've other questions.
We don't need to hear about Grey Wardens, because we've heard a lot about them in
Of
other
course.
places.
May the gods guide your path, Dalen.
Alright, so, yeah, that was a relatively long conversation. Let's see if there's anyone else to talk to. I'm pretty confident that no one else here has anywhere near as much to say as he did.
It's good to see you healthy. We feared you would perish.
So if you know anything about these two, there's a big big quest chain that involves Paul in Dragon Age 2.
Hello there. Hello there. I don't think we've met.
Ah, it's good you're well. You weren't here when Paul arrived, were you?
I've heard of you. Everyone is talking about you and the other missing hunter. A Grey Warden brought you back here.
So he's dressed differently because he is in fact a city elf. He is referred to in the city elf origin. So he's one of the brothers of one of the people who live in the city Denerim. He ran away from Denerim and got here. You're not Dalish, are you?
That obvious, is it? I just found your camp a couple of days ago. A lucky thing. I heard rumors in a nearby human village that a Dalish camp was close, and I hope to find your hunters in the forest.
You were fortunate I didn't shoot you, Paul. I thought you were a Shem, and a bandit at that. You're not the first city elf to rejoin his people. I'm sure you'll find life among us more satisfying than with the Shems, if no less harsh.
In the alienage, we hear terrible stories about the Dalish. They aren't true, right?
Prove yourself useful and the clan will be your home.
I'll do my best. I hope we find your missing friend very soon.
Just hints a little bit more at the relationship between city elves and the Dalish here. This is a nifty little lantern that they got going on here. It almost looks like a scroll on the ground, but we can't interact with it. Makes me wonder if there's a situation where that becomes interactable. So the Dalish camp that you go to in a later portion of this game, it's a completely different camp, but they have a lot of these kind of statues and stuff. So if you want to learn about like the lore of the Dalish, it's a good thing to click on all of the statues and receive those codexes. They essentially give you fun bits of lore about the gods of the Dalish. This one that we just picked up is about the god Gillenane. It talks a little bit, it gives you a bit of a story surrounding that specific entity. And we're going to talk with Myron.
Anathara, it's good to see you recovered.
Thank you. But how are the Hala faring, Marin?
They fare well. The Keeper called for the clan to move on, and they will be ready to take us. One is heavy with calf, but it shouldn't be a problem. May I ask of Tamlin's fate? Some say the clan will leave before we find him.
He may very well be dead.
The Hala mourn our fallen. No sound is more heart-wrenching than their mourning cry. At least they won't be crying over you. They are quite fond of you.
The Hala are beautiful creatures.
I admire them for their strength and pride. They are equals, not servants like the Shemlin horses. At any rate, I do not envy the Keeper's decision. I'll pray for Tamlin's safe return.
So I do find it a little bit interesting. That is a consistent message that you get from a lot of the Hala keepers in the various games. They all refer to the Hala as equals, and all that kind of thing, but they still have like the Hala corralled in a small enclosure type area, and they take care of the Hala like they would a pet. So their actions kind of imply that they're not equals, but the message in their words is always equal, equal, equal. Now, there is truth to the fact that they're not treated in the same ways that humans and dwarves treat some of the animals that they have in their lives, to an extent. But it depends on which humans and towards which animals, and which dwarves and towards which animals. So it's more complicated than just Hala horse different. Could talk with Meryl, but I know there's some people down here that we can talk to. This one in particular has some things to say. I guess no one else. Okay, so we'll talk with Ashal and then we'll move on.
By the creators, it is so good to see you whole and well. I was so worried.
Anath Ara, Ashal. It's good to see you too.
All that time you were ill, the Keeper didn't know if you were going to live or die. I've been outside the Keeper's tent the whole time. I have never been so relieved as when I heard you would pull through. What happened? Everyone says Tamlin may be dead.
They might be right, that is true. But he's missing, that's all we know right now.
That's awful. He's been a good friend to you since you were fledglings. You must be more careful. Your mother and father, may they rest in peace, would be horrified to see you take such risks.
So we get the tidbit there that our parents are dead, and they have been dead for a while. Now, when you talk with Morgan later in the story, this happens with all of the characters regardless, but when you talk with certain party members, you can talk about your past a bit, and with Morgan specifically, you get to talk about your parents, whether or not you had parents, whether or not you remember your parents, etc., etc. You've never spoken of my parents much, Ashal.
What happened to them is a sad tale, and it's in the past. Reopening old wounds benefits no one.
Persuade. We could, but we literally have no persuasion skill, so I'm not even gonna bother for now. Perhaps you're right, I should go.
Of course. Try to make the evening meal, will you? You're nothing but skin and bones.
I love how they comment, like, on weight, even though, like, all of the character designs are essentially the exact same, so it doesn't really allow the nuances of distinguishing between different sizes. The reason I'm backtracking a bit, is there's supposed to be this guy here. I forgot to talk with him. He's our craftsman. It's always good to talk with the craftsman.
I'm glad you've recovered. Once we find Tamlin, we can concentrate on the journey northward. Thank you for the bow, Master Island. It is light and sturdy, much better than the one I made last year.
You are more than welcome. My father made it and used it in battle against the Clane tribes.
I will carry it with honor.
See, and right there, what he just said, in battle against the Clane tribes. There are more references to that sort of thing, but the Dalish don't necessarily all get along with each other. Now, they try to, and there is a lot of mutual respect from clan to clan, and they don't just like outright attack each other. But it is implied through like certain conversations that you can have with certain characters that some clans don't get along as much as others, and there can be fighting. It's in many ways similar to the history of indigenous people in North America. May I see your crafts, Master Island?
Of course. Take whatever you need.
Now, I mentioned this in our main playthrough with Elia, but you want to talk with all of the merchants you can in the game, regardless of which stage you're at in the game, because sometimes if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a backpack here that you can purchase and add inventory space to your character. Also, right before the items for like equipment items, there's a section in here where books will appear, and those books can be used for skill points or talent points. So they'll cost a lot more when you do see those books. Usually it's like 16 gold, somewhere around there. It might be a lot more in some cases, or a little bit less, but around 16 gold. And yeah, those are useful to keep an eye out for. So let's talk with him again.
Ah, back again?
I would like to hear the story of your father's battle.
Then I am proud to tell it. Our clan was one of the first to flee the Dales. When we came to Ferelden, the fiercest of the Shemlen were the barbarians known as the Clane. We didn't wait for them to attack us. Every Dalish clan in Ferelden united to bring the battle to them.
We can ask that, but we're not going to, because we already know there are, and I've referred to it a couple times. You even encounter another one in this game, regardless of who you play as. We attacked first?
They were barbarians without honor. They would have slain us without a second thought. The ensuing battle went well for us. That day we carved out our reputation of being the deadliest archers. Our arrows won us the right to wander these woods at will. It was this very bow that my father used that day.
Thank you for the tale, Master Island, and especially the bow. I will honor its history.
Right. Why would you relinquish such a relic?
We are all the same clan. His hand is as my hand. I have relinquished nothing. It was my father who first spoke of the Vir Tanadal, the three ways of the hunter. The first is the Vir Asan, the way of the arrow, to reach for our goal unrelenting. The second is the Vir Borasan, the way of the bow, to bend but not to break. The last is the Vir Adalen, the way of the wood. We are as ancient as the forests, each tree a part of the greater land. All Dalish are united in this. One day, we shall have a homeland again.
We could ask for that, but we're not even going to use a bow anyway, and we also don't have the persuade skill, so we're going to
May
go.
the creators guide your path.
Alright, and that's everyone, so we can go and talk with Meryl and get this quest underway. The quest shouldn't take too long. I don't think I'll have too much to say, except for maybe about Meryl.
The Keeper told me I'm to accompany you back to those caves. As her apprentice, I may see something you missed. But our main objective is to find Tamlin, of course. We must make haste. He may not have much time.
So this character is another reason that I think that that tattoo pattern is actually Mythal's tattoo pattern. Now, if you actually look at the other characters in the campsite, their roles don't necessarily match the tattoos that they have on their face. So, or maybe they do, and a lot of the interpretations of the tattoos are just way off. But it's more consistent with like the interpretations of tattoos in Dragon Age Inquisition than it is here. Either way. Also, this outfit that she's wearing, it's very similar to the outfit of a character called Anders in Dragon Age 2. Now, Meryl actually has a different outfit in that game. A little different, at least. So, she also looks a fair bit different and sounds different, but the general character is relatively similar. Finral is coming with us. Any objections?
That depends on the Keeper. I thought we're supposed to go alone.
Uh-oh. Should I ask her?
You said the cave is a dangerous place. You want to risk Fenrir getting hurt, or worse?
I should decide whether I'm willing to risk it or not.
Go tell the Keeper that, then.
We'll do that. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have asked that. Oh well. No harm in going back to talk to the Keeper. Maybe she'll have a few other things to say too.
I see you have not left with Meryl yet. Is there something you need?
I want to bring Fenrir with us.
Fenrir? Are you certain? I'm already putting Meryl at risk. I don't want to lose you too.
I want to help Keeper. If we can find Tamlin, it's worth the risk.
Very well, then. You have my permission. And thank you for asking for it.
Alright. Now we can go back to Meryl. Now, we could have avoided all of that with the persuasion skill. You can just persuade or intimidate Meryl into accepting that he's coming.
You're back. Are you ready to go now?
It doesn't make that much of a difference, though. Aren't you worried about getting sick?
A little, but the Keeper cured you. How dangerous could it be? Even if I get sick, finding Tamlin or something valuable will be worth it.
So that attitude is persistent in Dragon Age 2. If anything, it's actually magnified significantly in that game because of her interactions with different Illuvian. It's not the same Illuvian that's in this game. It's a completely new one, but yeah. How much did the Keeper tell you?
Enough to pique my interest and my concern. You can explain the rest on the way.
Fair enough, let's go.
What about Fenrir? You didn't think I'd notice him?
We asked. The Keeper has given her leave.
Then let us make haste while daylight lasts.
Alright. So with 3 people in our party, this shouldn't take too long to go through. But essentially we're going back to the ruins that we were at in the beginning of this playthrough. I'm encountering a bit of lag.
Were those Darkspawn?
Those were indeed Darkspawn, but we haven't actually seen one yet, so that would make sense.
I've never seen anything like them. You can smell the evil on them. Where did they come from? Were they here before?
Maybe the mirror has something to do with it.
What would Darkspawn have to do with our people? The stories say our Lathan fell long before the Darkspawn appeared. Well, we'll find out soon enough. Let's hope we don't find any more of these monsters. before we go, are you all right? Were you hurt during the fight?
Before answering that, I want to talk about the mirror again. That character that was with us in the beginning, who disappeared through the mirror, and we're trying to find. We will not find him in this quest to go and find him, but you do find him later in the game. At one point in the game, much later on, there's an ambush on your Grey Warden campsite, and all of the characters in your campsite join together for a big battle with a bunch of shadow creatures. And during that battle, if you are playing the Dalish Origin specifically, you actually recognize one of the creatures that's attacking your camp. And you go and talk with that creature at the end of the battle, and it actually is the person who disappears from this origin story. So that's what actually became of him. He essentially went through the mirror and became a darkspawn. Whatever was in the mirror turned him into a darkspawn. And it's a slow transformation, as exemplified by the fact that you're able to even communicate with him at the point when he's attacking your camp, but he's barely able to control himself enough to have that conversation with you. And it's implied that the only reason he has the willpower left to be able to talk with you at that point is because he recognizes you and he has that familial bond with you from prior to his darkspawn experience. So it's it's basically that you both contracted the blight in that encounter, but one of you went through the mirror, the other did not. And because you didn't go through the mirror, you were blasted back a bit, and managed to get out of the cave somehow. Duncan was able to find you and get you back to the Keeper and stop the progression of the blight within your blood for a short enough time to allow you the chance to leave with the Grey Warden at the end of this origin story. So, I'm fine, why do you ask?
You do look quite pale now that Meryl's mentioned it.
So they're both actually referring to the blight, because it is having a lasting impact on our character and it is killing us slowly. And if nothing is done about it, we will become something similar to our friend, a darkspawn, essentially. What type of darkspawn depends on our character, but it's somewhat implied that we become probably something like a shriek. What are you implying?
Nothing. Forget I said anything. Let's go.
Alright, onwards.
I wonder whose camp this is. Do you remember it being here?
No, it wasn't here. No, this wasn't here, it's fresh.
The Grey Warden said he was returning to the cave. Perhaps this is his camp. If so, he's not here now. And we've seen no sign of Tamlin. Maybe we should... Wait. Do you hear that?
Nothing. No creatures, it's too quiet.
Exactly. The forest is too... still. Something's in the air. Something unnatural.
Careful, I don't like this.
It seems whatever you woke up inside that cave has spread outside. The sooner we find this cave and Tamlin, the sooner we can leave. Take us there quickly.
Oh, are we under attack? Yes.
You won't know what hit you!
It's down!
More looting stuff that we're not actually looting because we don't care. For now, anyway. But yeah, again, I do encourage you to actually loot everything on your way through, as long as you have space for it. Especially if you're playing on a higher difficulty level. This game is significantly harder, or more difficult on the higher difficulty levels, so.
So these are the ruins. Interesting. They're definitely of human origin, yet elven artifacts are scattered amongst them. Nothing explains the monsters, though. But we must find Tamlin, or what's left of him. I can't imagine he's still alive with those creatures about.
Don't talk like that, you don't know.
You're right. We should explore farther before I go on about my fears. I'm sorry.
Now, we've seen a few bodies here. That is actually a trail left behind by the Grey Warden, Duncan.
Quickly, we must fight!
Move swiftly!
I'm getting tired. That's not good. This game's not as bad as Dragon Age 2 is for it, but in both of the games, the maps that you encounter are often repeats of each other. I am not quite sure what's causing the lag I'm getting here. It's weird. In one of the places that you encounter that's similar to this location later in the game, it's actually involving the Dalish at that point as well, but you go through it and there's certain characters that you have to kill that have keys on them that will give you the ability to progress on further into the dungeon. Now, for now we don't have to worry about the key situation, just I don't think. Or maybe we do. The emissary might have the key though, so. I guess not. Maybe. Okay, it was just because we were in combat.
So you were the one fighting Darkspawn. I thought I heard combat. You're the elf I found wandering the forest, aren't you? I'm surprised you have recovered.
If you heard the fighting, why didn't you help?
I would have, had I not been battling them myself. Not all the kills here were yours, as you can see. My name is Duncan, and it's a pleasure to finally meet you. The last time we spoke, you were barely conscious.
And Daran Atishan, Duncan of the Grey Wardens. I am Meryl, the Keeper's apprentice.
And I am Fenarel. Did you come here alone, human? Battling all those creatures?
Yes, though I must admit you took a great deal of pressure off me. Your keeper did not send you after me, did she? I told her I would be in no danger.
We're looking for our brother, Tamlin.
So, you and your friend Tamlin both entered this cave, and you saw this mirror?
Yes, Tamlin touched the mirror, and I blacked out.
I see. That's unfortunate. The Grey Wardens have seen artifacts like this mirror before. It is Tevinter in origin, used for communication. Over time, some of them simply break. They become filled with the same taint as the Darkspawn. Tamlin's touch must have released it. It's what made you sick. And Tamlin too, I presume.
So we actually find out later that the Alluvians are not Tevinter in origin, or at least they don't seem to be Tevinter in origin. There's a lot of different characters, and a lot more characters that refer to them as Elven than refer to them as Tevinter, even though Tevinter was using the mirrors quite a bit during the time of their conquest of the South. So, just a fun tidbit of information there. Can we fix it?
Unfortunately, no. It will taint all those who come near it now.
I do not fear this sickness. The Keeper knows how to cure it.
She may have weakened it, but she cannot cure it. Your recovery is only temporary. I can sense the sickness in you, and it is spreading. Look inside yourself, and you will see.
Then what should I do?
First, we deal with the mirror. It is a pestilence and a threat. It is done. Now let's leave this cursed place. I must speak with the Keeper immediately regarding your cure.
What about Tamlin?
There is nothing we can do.
I'm still alive. He could be too.
Let me be very clear. There is nothing you can do for him. He's been tainted for 3 days now, unaided. Through your Keeper's healing arts and your own willpower, you did not die, but Tamlin has no chance. Trust me when I say that he is gone. Now we should return.
Won't there be a body at least?
The Darkspawn would have taken it.
Why would they take his body? Not to eat it, I hope.
Darkspawn are evil creatures, and it's best to leave it at that. I'm sorry.
So, as mentioned earlier, and I suspect that Duncan actually knows this, but you do find out that Tamlin has become a Darkspawn himself. So, Duncan is essentially avoiding the truth by skittering around the edges of it. He's telling us what we need to know to convince us to leave, but he's not telling the whole truth. He's not revealing that information to us. Why not just tell me what the cure is?
It's not that simple. I would tell you more, but I must first speak with your Keeper.
Can we just leave the cave like this? Is it safe?
With the mirror destroyed, I doubt the Darkspawn will return.
Can we return later and search through the ruins? We could learn from many things here besides the mirror.
The cave is not safe. Everything here was exposed to the mirror's taint. If your people must come here, they should cleanse it with fire.
So there are a couple of things that you can go around this room and pick up if you decide that you're not ready, but there's nothing important lore-wise, so we're just gonna go back to camp.
I sense no other Darkspawn nearby, so it's safe. Lead on.
And there's just one basic conversation left, and you can have your goodbye talks with everyone.
I'm relieved you have returned, and I did not expect to see you again so soon, Duncan.
I was not expecting to return so soon either, Keeper.
Dare I ask of Tamlin? What did you find of him?
If he was alive, the Darkspawn would have killed him.
There were Darkspawn in the cave?
There is much to discuss, Keeper. I have learned a great deal since I was last here.
Let us speak privately within my Aravel then, Duncan. Merrill, warn the hunters. If Darkspawn are about, I want the clan prepared.
Manuvinen, Keeper. Right away.
Darlene, allow me some time to speak with Duncan. Seek us out at my Aravel later, and we can discuss your cure.
Very well, Keeper.
Tell Harin Pyvel what has occurred. He now has the sad task of preparing a service for the dead. Follow me, Duncan. I'm eager to hear what you have to say.
Alright. So, this is our opportunity to go around and talk with people, see if there's anything else they can add to what we've talked to them in the past about. The Keeper is over by the fire, so... Wait, I thought she would be. Maybe not. Where is she then? Odd. Alright, well, whatever. We're gonna go around and talk with a few people just to see if anyone has anything new to say. And we'll talk with the Keeper last.
I see you have not returned with young Tamlin. Are we to assume the worst?
I did not find him. We have no reason to doubt the Grey Warden, so we'll just say the Grey Warden says he will not be found.
A sad day for our clan. I know you and Tamlin were friends. My condolences on your loss.
So that's just like repeats of former questions. Thank you.
May the creators guide your path.
Alright, that was Master Islands. Goodbye. Now I can go talk with Paul.
It was good to meet you. Perhaps I'll get to hunt with you someday.
I've never seen a Shemlin city. What is it like?
You've never been to a city? Surely you've at least visited a town.
We occasionally trade with the Shemlin in small villages, but only a few in the clan can undertake that task.
I can't imagine never having seen a city. It's crowded, with buildings all squeezed together. There are people everywhere, and it always stinks.
And elves live with the Shem?
Only if they're servants. Most of us live in a part of the city called an alienage, separated from the humans by walls. That's where all the poorest folk live. Laborers, dockhands, and thieves. And that's if you're lucky.
Hardly sounds like freedom.
We don't think about it like that. To most folks, that's just how it is.
Which is true if you played through the City Elf origin. However, it's also vastly different from the alienage that you experience in great detail in Dragon Age 2. So, we hear City Elves. I don't know what it means to be Elven.
Well, back in the city we hear the same about you. Stories about Dalish bandits attacking people for no reason.
We would never resort to banditry.
I'm just saying that's what we hear. And it's elves who say these things too, not humans.
Which is funny. There's actually stories just like that going around on both sides. So the humans and the elves share stories about the other that are like that. So it's it's quite ironic. It's just that same old fear, and that makes the problem into a pestilence that just plagues both cultures on and on through the ages. Why did you leave the city?
I got into trouble for stealing. I'm not a thief. We just never really had a choice. Mother was a maid, and I was lucky if I could get work at the docks. You make a living however you can, right? When Mother died, I got drunk and was caught picking a guard's pocket. They were going to hang me, but I escaped and, well, here I am.
So that's a bit of a curious tale. it makes me wonder like how he escaped. Because it's not a common skill for people to be able to like pick locks and or even battle their way out of like a contingent of guards. So especially if they've already been brought to a cell, there's just like very few people, including the playable characters. um, well, you won't have to resort to that anymore, hopefully.
I'll do my best to adjust and fit in. I never dreamed you'd be so welcoming. I thought at best you might hide me for a bit. I'm glad I was wrong.
Do elves in the city learn to fight or shoot a bow?
Andraste's mercy, no. No one is allowed to walk around with any weapon. Fighting just gets you arrested. And I've never had to leave the city before, much less learn how to hunt. Of course. I hope to see you again.
Alright. We already talked with Island. We can talk with Meryl and Marin. We'll talk with this lady first, maybe? Yeah.
Oh, thank the creators you're safe. I questioned the Keeper's wisdom at sending you off while you're still sick, but my doubts were misplaced. Tamlin isn't with you. Is it as everyone fears?
If he isn't dead, he might as well be.
Oh, poor dear. This is horrible news. Please take care of yourself and get better. We can't bear to lose anyone else.
The Grey Warden says he knows a cure for the illness.
That's good. I thought the shaman's arrival was a bad omen, but perhaps I was wrong. I will see you soon, my dear. You make me very proud.
Meryl.
I wish we'd had more time to examine those artifacts. Perhaps another time if the Keeper thinks it's wise.
So that's another thing that actually is picked up in Dragon Age 2. Meryl becomes obsessed with artifacts, and specifically with the Illuvian. And this event that's happening right now with like the mirror and the disappearance of Tamlin is in large part what sparked that in her. So when you encounter her in Dragon Age 2, she already has an Illuvian, but she doesn't reveal that she has the Illuvian quite yet. She reveals it a little later on. And then her entire like character plot line is surrounding the Illuvian and her efforts to try and rebuild it, essentially, or get it to work again. And in contrast, if you compare Meryl's experience and the difficulty she has trying to get the mirror to work with what you know about Morrigan after playing this game and the DLC in this game, it puts the two of them on very different levels of experience, and it heavily implies that Morrigan is not only far more knowledgeable about the relics of the past than Meryl or like the Keeper or any Keeper that we've talked to in this game, but also more powerful in terms of being a mage, based on the things we see her be able to do and the stories we hear about her and her mother. So yeah, Morrigan is quite a unique figure. We'll talk more about her, but not in here.
You bring sad news. The Hala can
And
sense it.
I think it's
They are
just
restless and paw at the ground.
the fire, so we'll go talk with Pavel.
So you return with the Grey Warden, but without Tamlin. What happened, Dalen? Is he truly lost to us?
The Grey Warden says he is, but I'm not sure.
Even if he's not, we must leave soon. To think I'd live to see this. It seems the will of the creators that I sing the dirge for those I held in my arms as babes. I think I know why our immortal ancestors would sleep. Swiftly do stars burn a path across the sky, hastening to place one last kiss upon your eye. Tenderly land enfolds you in slumber, softening the rolling thunder. Dagger now sheathed, bow no longer tense. During this, your last hour, only silence.
So that was basically a prayer for the dead. The Keeper wants me to tell you to prepare a service.
Of course. We've no body to return to the soil, but we shall still sing for Tamlin. The creators must come to guide him to the beyond. Tell the Keeper, it shall be done before the clan is ready to move on.
Will the clan still leave?
Yes. The Darkspawn are too dangerous to risk staying here. I ask only one thing, if I may. This Grey Warden. You have met him now, yes? Is he a good man?
He seems honorable for a Shemlin.
Interesting. What is it he talks to the Keeper about, I wonder? Perhaps you should go and ask.
So you can ask more about the history, but I think we've gone over the history stuff in a lot of detail for what
of course.
It's worth.
May the gods guide your path, Dalen.
And now we'll go talk with the Keeper. Oh, there she is. So I guess they were inside that, the Arrowfell or whatever it's called. I forget. But yeah, after we talk to Duncan here, we just go to Ostagar, and it continues where all of the other origins lead to. So the differences in the game, other than what I've already mentioned, it's mostly just that one camp experience. But when you do come back to the forest, you encounter a different Dalish clan, and because you're Dalish, your interactions with that clan are significantly different than any of the other races that you have the ability to play as, including the City Elf. So in most of the playthroughs, even the City Elf, when you go and encounter that Dalish clan, you're treated with a significant amount of hostility. Whereas if you come as a Dalish, the hostility levels are not only reduced significantly, but in some cases are erased altogether. And in fact, many of the clan's people treat you as a brother or a sister. So they treat you as one of their own, essentially. And it's because you're Dalish that they do that. And they recognize you as Dalish because of your Dalish tattoos, presumably. Because other than the tattoos, I don't know that there's too much of a difference between the two cultures. So there you go. Let's talk with Duncan and get this underway.
Your Keeper and I have spoken, and we've come to an arrangement that concerns you. My order is in need of help. You are in need of a cure. When I leave, I hope you will join me. You would make an excellent Grey Warden.
So you end up having no choice in this. So he's trying to imply that you do have a choice, but you really don't. It's either leave or die, essentially, and you're not given the choice to just say, I want to die. And for good reason. I mean, this would literally be the end of the game if you just died right here. But it's like that with all of the origins, so... Me, a Grey Warden, this is madness.
This is not madness, Dalen. Your survival depends on it.
The Darkspawn taint courses through your veins. That you recovered at all is remarkable. But eventually the taint will sicken and kill you, or worse. The Grey Wardens can prevent that, but it means joining us.
Can't you just give me the cure?
The cure is only found by joining the Grey Wardens. As sole protectors against the Darkspawn, we're granted some immunity to the taint. But this is not charity. We enlist only the worthy, and you have certainly proven yourself. Should you join, it's unlikely you'll ever be able to return here.
So, like I said, you do have the option to say, no, I refuse. We're not going to do that. Actually, maybe I will do that, but I'm going to ask a few questions first, if I can. Why should we trust this human keeper?
A great army of darkspawn gathers in the south. A new blight threatens the land. We cannot outrun this storm. Long ago, the Dalish agreed to aid the Grey Wardens against a blight should that day arrive. We must honor that agreement. It breaks my heart to send you away, as it would to watch you die slowly from this sickness. This is your duty, and your salvation.
This is all I've ever known. This is my home.
A home that Darkspawn may tear apart. This way you can find a cure and protect your clan. Have courage.
I cannot express my sadness at sending one of our daughters off into such danger. Away from the clan that loves her. But if this is what the Creators intend for you, Dalish, meet your destiny with your head held high. No matter where you go, you are Dalish. Never forget that.
Okay, it did give us this option again. And it gave us a similar option, please do not cast me away. I think this would be more in line with the character that we've kind of created through our conversations so far. But I'm going to go with this just to demonstrate exactly what happens if you try to refuse.
Very well, you leave me no choice. I hereby invoke the right of conscription.
And I witness and acknowledge your invocation, Duncan of the Grey Wardens.
I'm sorry this was not your choice, but the Darkspawn threat is simply too great.
So, yeah, the right of inscription is something that the Grey Wardens have. At any time with any of the people who've signed treaties with the Grey Wardens, they can essentially invoke their right of conscription, and that means that regardless of what the person has done or accused of, or what their ties with the faction that the Grey Warden is negotiating with, regardless of any of that, they can invoke the right and claim the person as an initiate for the Grey Wardens, regardless of anything, and it supersedes any of the laws in place. Now, theoretically, there could be a case where you have someone like, who we find out later, Logain, who is highly antagonistic towards Grey Wardens. In that case, there might be the situation where rather than give away or permit the right of conscription, they would simply kill the Grey Warden and be done with it, which would pose problems in and of itself, but in most cases, as soon as that right is invoked, people back down, including the Dalish. So, yeah. You cannot make me serve against my will.
I will drag you kicking and screaming to Ostagar if I must. Would you rather die here and sicken your own people?
I know you'll do your clan proud, Dalish. Take this ring. It is your heritage, and will protect you against the darkness to come.
A valuable gift. So, are you ready to go?
Actually, sure, why not? Let's stay for Tamlin's funeral.
We have much ground to cover, but I cannot deny you that. Say your farewells. Then we must be off.
Come then, Dalish. Before the Creators guide you from us, let your clan embrace you one last time.
Here's the funeral? Or, no, I guess it's not. It's just us leaving, it looks like. Or not. Yeah, it's just us leaving. That music that's playing in the background, you do encounter it once again when you encounter the character Leliana, and it's because she actually sings that song specifically, and you get to hear the full version of it, but you have to do a few things with that character in order to unlock that scene. Either that, or you have to have already gone through the new Dalish camp, the Dalish camp that you
We will be
encounter as a
traveling
Grey Warden.
south through the hinterlands to the ruin of
And
Ostagar, on the edges of
I'm
the
just going to
Korkari
turn down the
Wilds.
volume on the
The
game
Tevinter
here.
Imperium built Ostagar long
So
ago
with
to
that,
prevent the Wilders from invading the northern
there's
lowlands. It's fitting we make our stand here, even if we
yeah,
face a
so you
different
go
foe within
through
that forest.
to the woods again,
The
and you
king's
encounter
forces have
the
clashed with the
different Dalish
Darkspawn
clan.
several times.
Again, it's
But
a
here is where
completely
the
different
bulk of the
clan. It's
horde
not
will
the
show
same one
itself. There are only a
that you
few
see
Grey
in your
Wardens within
playthrough as
Ferelden
a
at the
Dalish
moment,
Elf origin.
but all of us are here.
But
This blight
after
must be stopped, here and
doing
now.
all of your quests
If
in
it
that
spreads to
Dalish
the
area
north,
and convincing the Dalish to
Ferelden
join you,
will fall.
Ho
if you
there,
can,
Duncan.
In your fight
King
against
Kaelan.
the Darkspawn,
I didn't expect
then
A royal welcome?
a
I was beginning to
scene
worry you'd miss all the
with
fun.
the character
Not if I
Leliana
could
will
help it, Your
unlock
Majesty.
that is specifically
Then I'll have the
regarding
mighty Duncan
your
at my side in
experiences
battle
with the
after all.
Dalish.
Glorious.
And she
The other
sings
wardens
that
told me you'd
song
found
that
a
you heard
promising
playing in the
recruit.
background as we
I
said
take
our
it this is
farewells
she?
to our clan.
Allow me to introduce you, Your
Now,
Majesty.
outside of that,
There's no need to be so formal,
there aren't
Duncan.
really any other
We'll be shedding
differences
blood
other
together
than
after
the
all.
subtle
Ho there, friend.
contextual
Might I know your name?
differences of conversation as you work your way through the entire game. And that's the case with all of the origins. Based on which origin you had, you'll have variations on conversation options with specific characters as you progress through the game, including with the king here in this conversation that you see on the screen currently, and with other characters, both characters that you can play as or have in your party, and characters that you just encounter along your way to defeat the archdemon. So with that, if you liked the video, give the video a like, and remember to subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Bye.